guys, welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel. If you haven't been here before, my name is Emily Ruth. I make faith and lifestyle videos. Today I wanted to react to a part of Ali Beth Stuckey. Kat Von D is a very well-known tattoo artist. She was on LA Ink back in the day. She's had a makeup line, she's done music. She's pretty well-known, and a couple of years ago, she had made a Instagram post about throwing away all of her occult books. And a lot of people had said that maybe she became Christian when she said that she was throwing all that stuff away. She didn't really clarify at the time, but a lot of people had a hunch, because that is what happens, you know, when you get saved. God will expose the items that you have in your house and expose like the deceit behind them and give you a conviction to throw those things away. Anyway, she has a really cool testimony. I'm not gonna be playing the whole thing for you. It's like over an hour. So if you want to check it out, please make sure you watch that after you watch this. If you haven't seen it yet, I'll leave it down in the description box below. Recently, Kat Von D had made a video of her baptism, and she had a lot of backlash for it. And so she's about to talk about that in this interview podcast video, and I wanted to react to that because I have already watched this, but there was a lot of things that she said that I just had a lot of thoughts and wanted to share them. Before we get into this and I play this video for you guys, I just want to say thank you for watching and being here. If you haven't subscribed yet, please make sure that you do that. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoy it, so I know that you enjoy it, and also turn on your notification bell so that you never miss another one of my uploads. And also at the end of this, if you have anything you want to add or share, make sure you leave it down in the comments down below. And without further ado, let's get into this. Oh, also just want to say thank you guys for being patient with me these past couple weeks. I got really sick. I felt really ill, and I know it's going around right now, flu season, you know, so just make sure you guys are taking your vitamins, drinking water, and going outside. Like, I feel like I have not been getting enough vitamin D from the sun. Make sure you're getting enough sun. And on that note, let's play this video.
My whole perspective on it. I think, again, like, I have no intentions of cutting off my friends that I don't necessarily agree with or don't see things the same way. I don't think Jesus would either. And so it's like, because I got a lot of criticism after I posted that baptism video, and I think that, like, Christians, when you do that, you don't realize how much harm you're doing. You know, like, I would look at a lot of the comments that I got, and they were really cruel and very annoyingly holier than thou. And I would look at some of them and say, okay, let's look at, like, what is to be gained from this comment? Like, who does it help to be a know-it-all? Like, who does it help? Does it help me? Does it help all my other followers following and like witnessing the judgment and the criticism and definitely of not knowing the other person, you know, like everyone's like, oh, well, she's a baby Christian, so, you know, you should cut her some slack. It's like, I'm not a baby Christian. I mean, I just recently got baptized, but, like, this didn't happen yesterday. Like, I have an understanding of a lot of the things that people are talking about. Like, I'm not going to dress like how you think I'm going to dress. Like, nothing's changing in that department. Like, even like with like the you know, the music that I make or some of the content that I make, it's like, it's not for you, you know, it's not for you. You have no idea how many DMs that I got from, like, other goth kids that are in the same boat as I was. They're going, man, I'm at this crossroad and I want to go back to church, but, like, I don't have a church to go to. Or I feel like even within my own family unit, people have, like, I'm an outcast, and I'm trying to make my way back to Jesus, but, like, these people, you know, like, thank you for doing that, you know? And it's like,
so I just want to touch on that really quick, because I totally relate. When I was in middle school, for example, I started to have, like, an edgier style, and I've always, like, kind of had an edgier style, you know? And I've received a lot of criticism on that, like, with other Christians and, like, people who aren't Christian, but it's like, you know, that's whatever. It's really just people who are Christian that like, I got a comment recently. I've had a few comments recently, actually. If you're watching, hi. I've had a few comments recently that I'm not saved, or I don't really have Jesus in my heart because I have an eyebrow piercing. And I think that's really interesting, because I just personally, like, I didn't grow up in that world, you know? My church that I go to now, now. I mean, when I was in middle school going to church, I was edgier, and sure, I felt judged by my appearance, but I think a lot of that was in my head and wasn't real because no one ever directly said anything to me. Maybe people were saying things behind my back, but no one ever directly said anything to me. I think a lot of it was just me being insecure about who I was and whatever. But the eyebrow piercing thing I think is really interesting because people in my church like have septum piercings. They have the insides of their mouths pierced. Like they have, this isn't everybody, but like our church is huge. You know, my lead pastor started getting tattoos recently, and they're not like glorifying Satan, and it says like Yahweh, you know. And I am not the type of Christian who thinks that piercings, tattoos, eye makeup, or like dressing in black is a sin, and it's not in the Bible. People will bring up parts of Leviticus to justify that it's a sin to get tattoos, but that was a cultural law for that time for a specific reason. We're not going to get into all that right now. She just brings up such a valid point. Like, you know how much harm that does, like, and pushes people away? Because one of the comments that she was getting on her baptism video was about how her friends who had been saved longer than she had, you know, looked a certain way. And it's like, it's not a sin to wear black. Like, modesty is really the thing. But anyway, we're going to get into that more in a second too.
I don't have any intention on like conforming to what somebody's like uniform or what their idea of darkness is, you know, because I don't think I'm a dark person. I wear dark clothes, but like people's like definition of darkness is a lot different, you know. Yeah. Like what's dark to you might not be to me. Like I'm not scared of death. Like I talk about it all the time. My entire career was based on that. You know, I tattooed portraits of dead people on their loved ones for decades. And like, so I've read every grieving book. I've read every bereavement book. I've read like, you know, death is something that like we should be able to talk about. And, you know, when I see a skull, I don't think like, oh, that's demonic. It's just not for me. But if it triggers you spiritually, then keep scrolling, you know, like, or don't listen to my music or whatever it is. But I think that like the amount of critical Christians on my Instagram now have become such a turnoff to people who are actually seeking God that like I had to just block and delete. Like even if it's good stuff, I just like if people talk about, this is not for you, you know? Yeah. And it's like you end up pushing people away. And like,
so another thing that I saw as far as people like criticizing her baptism, which why are we criticizing someone who got baptized? Like what is it inside of us that just has to be this like superior religious Pharisee that's just picking apart something, like everything someone does? Well, you're not a Christian if you do that. Come on, man. We're all on our own journey. And I know that I have plenty of videos on here where I've been like, you're not a real Christian if you do X, Y, Z. When I'm talking about that, I'm talking about people who just use Christianity as a label and there's no fruits. Like absolutely none. Like they have filthy mouths. They watch whatever they want. They say whatever they want. They do whatever they want. They go to the club all the time. Like there's nothing in their life that's like exalting God in any way. You know, like that's the kind of person I'm talking about. Not someone who wears black and like has a tattoo and you think that they're not saved because they don't fit your version of whatever, you know, like that's why are we like that? It just makes no sense to me. I was gonna say something else, but I forget now. I'm just gonna keep playing this.
The one person that I think about through all this is my husband, you know, because when we got together, we were both not Christian, you know, we got married and then he's really helped me without knowing find my way, and he's not necessarily on the same page. I mean, in some ways he is, you know, he's very supportive. We go to church together, you know, every Sunday. He always supports me. We pray together, but there's parts of him that's still questioning, and
still questioning is totally okay. She had mentioned earlier in this interview that something that pulled her away from the faith when she was younger was that she had questions that her parents couldn't answer. And if you are asked a question by a non-believer then you don't have the answer to, just say, I don't know, but the answer's somewhere. Let's find out together. You know, like, let's learn together. You know, it's not bad to have questions.
Grief from people that spilled over into my husband. I remember the next morning, he was like, babe, I don't want to be a part of that. Yeah. You know, and it like, I'm trying not to get emotional because it's like, I've been working for years, like trying to like lead by example and share what my own stepping stones with him to like, hopefully one day he can come to me and say, hey, guess what? Like, I've given my heart to Jesus. That hasn't happened yet. But when you have like like an entire community of people like attacking you. Like, not to say that my husband is like, you know, gonna do something based on a comment on Instagram, but when it's getting amplified so much, like it turns people off.
And we're supposed to be set apart as Christians. Like, we're supposed to live differently, but we're also supposed to talk differently. Why are we so mindless with how we use our mouths? You know, like, we need to be mindful of like the words we use, how we speak. How we speak should be amplifying people and building them up, not tearing them down. There's a Bible verse that says that, actually. Let me find it really quick. Ephesians 4:29 says, "Do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouths, but only what is helpful for building others up according to their needs, that it may benefit those who listen." If you're gonna have a comment in someone's Instagram or YouTube or TikTok or whatever, and it's like criticizing, first of all, make sure it's done with love. Like, watch your tone. You know, you never know what someone's going through. Like, you just need to be gentle with your words, but also make sure that if you're going to be sharing a comment, like, may it benefit others who read it, believer and non-believer. That's what we need to be doing as believers.
Not everyone's like that. You know, like, our church is amazing. The first day we went, you know, my husband didn't want to go. He's like, do I have to go? And I'm like, yeah, you have to go. Like, that's going to be a rule now, you know? When we moved to Indiana, I was like, our first mission is to find our church, you know? And like, it might take us a year, it might take us a week, but we got to just try. And I had a list of Baptist churches that I wanted to explore. Like, we all dress nice when we go to church. That's just our own personal thing. Like, this is a sacred space. And like,
I was talking about that with my husband the other day, actually, because we go to a non-denominational church, which I love. I love our church, don't get me wrong. But as a non-denominational church, we can just be a little too casual sometimes. And I don't think there's anything wrong with dressing casual. Just personally for me, I really like dressing up at church, you know, specifically like Sunday mornings, you know, because there's a lot of stuff at church we do throughout the week that I don't dress up for. It's just casual. But like Sunday morning just feels like there should be like a reverence. I don't know. I like what she said there about it being traditional.
That's how I do it. And I feel like other outlets and stuff like just didn't really align with what I'm looking for. I feel like God just like spit me out on the doorsteps of the most perfect church for us, and we go in there and there's, you know, it's a very small congregation. It's a lot of old people. My parents were always late as a kid, so I have anxiety about being late. I do not like being late. Well, I got there too early and we interrupted their prayer circle, and these people just stood up and embraced us, and they were just they didn't really care about who people think we are, you know. They were just like, oh yeah, you're the lady that bought the house down the street, and we've actually been praying for you. And like,
that is how we are to be as Christians. They didn't stop her and were like, you don't belong in our church. Like, you look like, get rid of your tattoos first. Like, are you serious? Not that I've ever walked into a church that like did that, but that's just amazing that that's how they embraced her. Like, oh, you're the lady down the street. Like, they knew about her. Oh, we've been praying for you. You've been praying for her. Like, that's amazing. Congratulations. Just claps for that church, whatever your church is, Kat. That's amazing.
And so then I was like, okay, well, let's try this out, because it's like, you know, I want to see if what the pastor's all about, pretty much. Like, I want to learn about the Bible. Like, I don't want necessarily feel good stories, or, you know, like I'm here to learn. And so
this is random, but have you noticed, like, if any of you guys are on TikTok, have you noticed how many like goth styled kids and stuff have been getting saved? Have you noticed that? And like a lot of people with like face tattoos and stuff have been getting saved. And it's almost like, I'm sure people like that have been getting saved for a while, but it's just interesting that the Lord's like bringing it to light and like giving these types of people like a platform. Like, he really wants to show that, it seems to me that he really wants to show that, you know, we're not saved by like outward works or appearance, but it's an inside heart change. Because a lot of us as Christians have looked too heavily on what's on the outside and not on the inside. We're focused on, oh, she has an eyebrow piercing. Like, that's not what makes you a Christian. What makes you a Christian is, well, following the Lord, but the fruits of the Spirit: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, and self-control. You follow the Lord, those fruits will follow you. And so that's the evidence that we've been saved.
So I was like, man, I can't believe that, you know, we got lucky and found this place so quickly, and we love it. And so my husband responds to that, and like, you know, he's learning in his own, you know, on his own path and in his own way, and so that's been good. But then I feel like when we step out of that place, like, that's when it becomes like triggering for him, you know. And
well, you're in a unique position because you have such a large audience that you are going to attract the extremes of anything just by being a person on the internet.
Yeah.
I do want to talk about the baptism video a little bit, just for some people who may have missed that. And we talked about it a little bit in the introduction, but you posted this beautifully artistic baptism video. Is that your actual church? Is that the building? It's beautiful.
Thank you. It is beautiful.
And like you said, you received a lot of
positivity.
A lot of positivity, but then you said that you received some criticism, and you talked a little bit about the holier than thou kind of self-righteous comments that you got, but specifically, what were they criticizing you for? Was it like,
Listen
this is not genuine?
So there's a lot of it. There was, it went from, well, her hand wasn't like completely submerged into water, so this is fake. Or it doesn't count. That kind of
silly.
stuff.
I've never heard that.
Yeah,
I've never heard that before.
You have to be fully submerged. But like, I was holding on to Pastor Brian's hands when, and I weigh 150 pounds. Like, he's like an older gentleman. Like, I was like thankful he didn't drop me or whatever, So, and then other people were like, she's faking it. This is just for a PR stunt. And
what PR is that?
You weren't there. It's like people weren't there. And like, there was one recently that I saw that was. And I like I said, I typically do not respond. I just block and delete. But one of them I responded to recently because it was just so crappy. Just the like, who would say this? But right before I went into the water, so I joined the church choir, and I wanted to sing my tribute, this song called My Tribute, on that day. And so I sang that with my choir. And my dad plays the trumpet, and he ended up doing a trumpet version of My Tribute when I was in the back getting ready to go in the water. So I was already crying before we even went in. And so the whole entire time, I'm listening to Pastor Brian when he's saying, the whole world disappeared, and I'm in this water with my pastor, and then he calls me a sister in Christ. And the whole time I was just fighting tears, And so in the video, I'm doing this, like, and somebody's like, look, she's just laughing the whole time, like it's fake. And I was like, man, you're no fun. Like, I just people, like, what do you guys? Because I don't have that within me. When I'm on Instagram, like, I see plenty of stuff that I don't like, or that I don't agree with, or that I think is silly, or
and you just scroll on.
I just don't care,
Also, I want to mention there is typically a lot of spiritual warfare that gets attached to baptism. I don't know why that is. I guess the enemy's just threatened because you're new to the kingdom, and then you're also declaring for others that you are new to the kingdom and Jesus is the way. But when I got baptized, I basically had this common thing throughout my life that, like, as soon as I would get step in the right direction towards God, the enemy would like put a boy in my path to pay attention to, because I had codependency issues. And so that happened right after I got baptized, and it threw me off of my walk with God for about a year. I got back to him, praise the Lord. But I've talked about this with a lot of Christians, that after they get baptized, they tend to face a lot of spiritual warfare. So Kat, if you're watching this, just know that's normal. The enemy can use Christians too. So yeah, it's not okay, but it comes to the territory, unfortunately.
Rain on somebody's light. So
just looking for something.
It's so crazy. But I'm not an idiot. I knew that when I posted that video that people would have questions. I also knew, like, the moments leading up to it. It wasn't planned. I hired a camera guy. I wanted to me, I've been documenting my life since I was 20. This was one of the most important days of my life. Like, I want to document it just like I would document my wedding, and so to share it with the world. It was intentional, it's like there's the symbolic gesture of baptism, but there's also a part for me is like a bit of a making amends with my followers, because for so many years I've been putting out a certain message that makes me sad that I was ever even a part of. To like publicly proclaim this was me setting some things right, and this just is for me, it has nothing to do with, my church isn't involved in that thought process, but it was important to me to share that, because I could have just kept it to myself and just kept going on, but I was like, no, this is something I want to celebrate, and I want to be like open and honest about it. I don't plan on being evangelical in a sense of like posting about my faith, or, to be honest, outside of talking to you, I really don't plan too much to talk about it.
You know what I thought of immediately when she said this? Like, I don't plan on talking too much about it. Maybe she just means like online. I didn't plan on talking too much about my faith. I definitely didn't plan on making a channel about my faith, and everything I post on Instagram now is like about Jesus. I never used to be that way. I never even used to upload stories. My presence online was like barely anything, and I had no plan on really talking about Jesus. But I don't know, sometimes you get to a certain point in your walk and you just can't shut up about him. He just ignites you on fire so much. I mean, when she felt the need to like post that she threw out her her occult books, decided to share her baptism. Like, obviously that's something she's excited about and she wants to share. So I don't know, like everything that I share about God is just an outpour of like what he's been showing me like during my time with him, you know? So it's like eventually you just get to a point where you just can't hold it anymore. Maybe I'm wrong and she'll just, you know, evangelize like privately like she's about to say, but you never know, Kat. You never know.
That's just where I'm at with it. You know, I feel like there are some people that have the gift of that, you know, like my pastor or like you and Pastor Jack Hibbs or whatever. And I think that there's some people that like can be quiet witnesses, and that's me, you know, like I do better like one-on-one with people.
Okay, so I do want to ask a couple questions that some people might have, and this is just as someone who has never been in the punk rock world, not the tattooing world. It's a totally different world than most of my audience is familiar with, and me too. Like you said, your style is your style. The kind of music that you play is the kind of music that you play. Some people who are, you know, just totally outside of that world, they will look at something like vampires or black or whatever it is, or Marilyn Manson or things like that, and it's scary, and it does feel dark, and so I think some people have the question of like, how can you like run in these circles and like be promoting things that do seem ghastly or, you know, deathly or whatever. Kind of how do you approach that?
There's a few parts to that. I think like, you know, like I've listened to all of your episodes on like Halloween and stuff like that. I think this is an easy way to explain it for me. Is like, I'm sober, you know, I used to do drugs and drink, and I no longer do that. I can be around it and not be tempted, but I choose not to be around it. Like especially the drug stuff, you know, like if you're doing drugs in front of me, I'll leave. Like it's just not my thing. It's a trigger for me or whatever. I don't even like that word, but you know, whereas I have friends of mine that they can have a glass of wine on the weekend and they're still in control of themselves, like, and they're not abusing it like I was, you know, like I personally cannot have one drop of tequila or I will destroy my life and everything around it. That's just how it is for me. And so I think like when it comes to things like Halloween or like, I don't like using the term dark stuff because I don't really consider it dark, but like if it triggers you, then just don't participate in it. Like, you know, if it doesn't trigger you, I feel very sound in my faith. Like I'm not gonna be swayed by my neighbor to join a cult. I'm just not. But I think when it comes to music, and I've been thinking so much about this lately because I don't, you know, you have to bear with me because I'm still kind of refining how I think about it, but like secular music, you know, like I listen to secular music. I do not listen to worship music. Like I like to sing it in church, and when I'm singing hymns at church, like it's a whole different experience than when I listen to, you know, The Cure or whoever, Depeche Mode, whoever I'm listening to, you know. I went to a big church when I was in California recently, and I'd never been to a church like that before, and I loved the sermon, I loved the message, the people were so nice and great and everything, but I will say I couldn't enjoy the song part of it, you know, like both my husband and I looked at it, was like, it just didn't feel, it feels weird to us, like it feels like we're watching a concert. I'm watching somebody sing a song, and because I know how to write a pop song, I'm like, all I'm thinking of is the songwriting session that it took to get to this, and like the emotional cues, and then the repetitiveness of it, the drop, and then here comes this, and it's just like, and everybody was singing along. I'm like, okay, so they listened to that in their cars, like that's what they listen to, and that's totally cool. It's just not for me, you know. Like I just want to listen to like the old stuff, you know. I'm like, should I stop listening to love songs, you know, because that's my genre, is like I just write love songs, and a lot of them are they're sad love songs, you know. They're like reflections of experiences I've had or feelings I've had when my husband and I get in a fight or whatever it is, you know. Like these are expressions of my experience, and I think like, is it wrong, and you can help me maybe figure this out, is it wrong that not everything is about God in a sense, or Jesus? Like, is it wrong that some people like to listen to the Bee Gees sometimes, or my dad likes Hall Notes, you know, or whatever? Right. Should we only listen to at all time? And to me, I'm like, I don't know. I don't think Jesus would be bummed at me for listening to The Cure. I don't.
So I have a lot that I wanted to say on this part right here. What Allie's about to say in response to this is really good too. But I totally relate to what Kat is talking about here, because I'm also a singer and a songwriter. And when I'm in worship, for example, or when I listen to any song at all, I'm always thinking about what she said, the structure, the beat, emotional cues, the drop, what it took in this songwriting session, like the thought process behind each and every lyric. Like, I don't like, even if it's a really good worship song, I don't like lazy lyrics, you know, that are kind of just like really bland. I don't know. It depends on what they are, right? But I think about this a lot, right? Because, you know, I had a long period at the beginning of my faith journey. Like when I started going to church again in I think it was 2015, I was still listening to worship music for like several years. Or sorry, I was still listening to secular music for several years. And there weren't any worship songs that I really liked, maybe a couple. And it took years, like literally years, for me to actually enjoy like a lot of worship music. And I think like that's just a sanctification process, you know, because God will kind of like change your heart posture to enjoy like worship music more. I know that my heart posture was not in the right place. And I'm not saying that Kat Von D's heart posture is not in the right place, but what she was talking about, like in regards to like writing love songs, like I've wondered this too, because I have songs that I've written about God and about my faith journey. And then I have a lot of like sad love songs that I've written too. And I'm like, you know, when I finally get a chance to produce and record and publish, like, is that the right word? My album, is it wrong that like I have all these love songs and they're not about Jesus? Because like my album is, my vision for it is that, you know, all of these songs are like a testimony of what I've been through and what I've come through, and then like finding Jesus at the end of it. Is it wrong to make love songs? And I don't think so, because honestly, I would rather hear a love song from a Christian than someone else, you know, someone who's not a believer. At the same rate as everyone who's not a believer that makes a love song, like, are they in the wrong? Like, I don't think so. I think like I really pay attention to lyrics, so I really like, to me, what matters the most is like the intention behind what they're trying to say, but also like what are the lyrics saying. That's just always been really important to me. And
you know, at the end of the day, I just know I'm not going to listen to something that doesn't sit right with my heart, with my faith, with whatever, you know, like right. There's certain things that I won't listen to, like, and those are my own boundaries, you know. But so I don't know, I don't have the answer to that, you know. So there's that part with the music, but maybe you can talk about that more.
Yeah, well, I certainly wouldn't say that I have all the answers, because those are really good questions. The thing that comes to mind is that God is the source of all truth and all beauty. So
like every good thing comes from God. You know, like love comes from God.
All truth is God's truth. Just because something that is mathematically true isn't necessarily something that you would find in the Bible doesn't mean that it's outside of Christianity or not of God. God created it. God created all beauty. He created all truth.
Also, what else comes to mind for me is Song of Solomon. Like that whole book in the Bible is about the unity of marriage, and it's like kind of provocative, and it's like not about Jesus, but it's about this beautiful thing that God created, which is marriage and sex, you know? But it's not necessarily about Jesus, but in a way that it is, because he made every good thing.
So something can glorify him, even if it's not, I think, specifically about Jesus or quoting the Bible, because he created that person to have artistic talent. He created those words. He created poetry. He created literature. And so, yes, I listen to secular music too, but here's an example.
Yeah.
And I've got my producer is a Swiftie, so I don't know if she'll be offended by this. But, okay, there are Taylor Swift songs that I really like and I can listen to. There are lots of songs like this, but then there are some songs that I hear it and I'm like, I just can't listen to this without feeling convicted. One of the songs that I just cannot listen to by Taylor Swift is Karma.
I don't know any Taylor Swift songs.
Yeah, so. Well, just the whole concept.
Kat Von D not knowing any Taylor Swift songs is, I can't relate at all, but that's so funny and cute to me. I don't know. Dude, I don't. I was gonna make a whole video on Taylor Swift because I have some controversial thoughts about her. What Allie is saying right here, like Karma, like this song Karma by Taylor Swift, what really gets me about that song and what made me be like, I cannot listen to this, I will not listen to it, is the fact that she calls karma a god. First of all, karma is a ripped off idea from the Bible, which comes from a very famous Bible verse that talks about reaping what you sow. You reap what you sow, right? Karma's a ripped off ideology from the Bible, first of all. Second of all, Taylor Swift says in the song, karma is a god, and karma's not a god. Jesus is God. God is God. That's blasphemy, you know, to call karma a god. And so for that reason, I won't listen to that song. But, you know, then there's other songs from Taylor Swift that are love stories. And I don't think that they're wrong. But for me, it varies song by song. And then there's also artists that maybe not all their songs are like glorifying Satan or whatever, but I just cut them off because they've just, I don't know, for me, like when you reach a certain point as an artist that you're just outright straight up glorifying Satan, I won't listen to you anymore. You know, I love Halsey, but her last album was really demonic for me, and there were just, not even because it was a dark theme, but just because of like some lyrics that she's talked about, which I mentioned in another video, whatever. You know, there's lyrics that she has in her album where she's blaspheming Jesus, and like that's crossing the line for me. You can have your own ideas about the world and how it works and whatever, but once you start blaspheming Jesus, like that's when I'm just like, that's my limit, you know? And we all have our own convictions. We're all on our own walk with God. We're all on our own journey. And, you know, there were songs that didn't convict me 5 years ago that convict me now. It really just depends, you know, just have discernment, like just pray for discernment on these things. You know, is this song adding to my life or is it not adding to my life?
But she's basically talking about how karma is on her side because of all these good things that she's done. It's against this person who is against her. I can't listen to that because like I think about the millions of girls who are taken in the theology of that song and getting so confused and so miserable, like you were saying, people caught in the new age. But that doesn't mean that I can't listen to, I don't know, Love Story by Taylor Swift. Or like my husband and I love watching The Office. It's entertaining. Is every single part of it God glorifying? No. Or is every single part of it biblical? No, but it's kind of like one of those things like you were talking about. Some of it's individual, and then obviously I do think there are objective standards of sin in the Bible too. There are some things we definitely shouldn't be listening to, definitely shouldn't be watching because they glorify sin.
Travis Scott, I mean, I never listened to Travis Scott, but like Astroworld, I don't understand why anyone would listen to Travis Scott after what happened at Astroworld. I don't understand why anyone would listen to Doja Cat after all of these like super satanic music videos and songs that she's made, and people will say like, oh, she is just playing on what you're calling her or whatever, and it's like, no, like she's glorifying Satan. Like, there's no pretending to glorify Satan. You either glorify him or you don't. There's no pretend. That would be a very obvious example of like, this artist should not be in your life. I have asked God a lot, like, because I have felt guilty about listening to Taylor Swift, but it wasn't really a conviction from the Holy Spirit. It was really just like what other people were saying about her. My convictions are not based off what other people say. My convictions are based off my relationship with Jesus, you know? So that was something I had to work through. But if you feel convicted to not listen to Taylor Swift, or you feel convicted when listening to Taylor Swift, then don't listen to her. You know, like, we're all on our own walk, we're all on our own journey.
Yeah, so
exactly.
That's like a very general answer.
So vampires, for me, it's like vampires aren't real. I think it's entertaining to think about certain things, you know, like you know, when you're a kid, you're thinking like, what if
actually my husband and I were talking about the origin of vampires. Vampires were real. And they're not like real beings that can only like live off eating blood, like, but it is very satanic. The origin of vampires is super satanic. So it's also important like to look at the root and origin of things, but also like maybe she's never looked into the origin of vampires, you know, it's not like that deep to her. So again, it's just understanding that like we're all on our own journey, we're all on our own walk, you know.
What if I could fly? Or what if I was invisible? What would be you know, like these are just thoughts. Like I always thought like this weird people's fascination with wanting to live forever, which would to me would be like such a curse, you know. And it's like, and how people romanticize that, you know. But or like exorcism movies, like that was my favorite genre before. I don't watch horror movies anymore, just not for any other reason, I just don't want to get scared anymore. But some of my favorite movies to this day are about exorcisms, and like there was like one specifically about the exorcism of Emily Rose, which was more, it wasn't a horror movie, it was more of like a court case movie. It happened in real life, like where a girl got supposedly possessed by a demon, and there was a court case between the church and the medical field, like trying to figure out like what would have been the right way to help this person. I reflect on that in such a biblical way. Like I can see like I see demonic possessions, like I say, especially in addiction and in like the guy who came to my door like that night. Like when I do watch some of that stuff, like I do think about my faith. I don't think about like, whoa, this is so great and gory. That's not my approach to it. I'm thinking in a more, I don't want to say philosophical, but like I'm thinking about it in a different way than just like getting off on darkness.
Yeah. And I think that's a totally valid point, but I do want to say, like, we don't realize a lot of the time that what we watch, what we consume, what we listen to does open doors to demons. Like, we don't watch like horror movies, a lot of us, like, or whatever, to get off to like something scary, or like because we want to bring like darkness into our lives. A lot of us don't want that. But horror movies, I think it depends on the movie too, because there was a Christian horror movie that was made recently. I can't remember what it was called, but that movie glorified God, not the enemy. It's like, what's it glorifying? What comes to mind on this subject is a dream, actually, that God gave me last week. And basically what happened was, I remember I was at my grandma's house, and I don't know why when I have demonic dreams, a lot of the times they're at my grandma's house, which doesn't even exist anymore. But anyway, there was this dream. I was at my grandma's house, and it's hard to explain, but there was like a table and a chair that was inside of my bedroom that belonged to my brother, and my mom was like cleaning out his space, and so she put this table and chair in my room. And like, because he had like demonic energy attached to him, like this table and chair had demonic energy attached to it, and so it moved, and it was moving towards like where it was originally in the house, where his space was, if that makes sense. And I just knew that it was a demon that was moving it, right? This is what happened in my dream. At the same time that I'm having this realization, and like that this situation is happening, there's a horror movie playing, and then at the same time the news is playing about ISIS and Hamas, or about Israel and Hamas. And what God spoke to me in that moment in the dream was, the same spirit that moved this table and chair is the same spirit that is in the horror movie, is the same spirit that is in Hamas. It's that Antichrist spirit. And so that's what we're letting in when we watch things like horror movies. Like I said, depending on the movie, but most horror movies are like glorifying the devil. It's just, that's why discernment is so important, because it's like, you stay close to the Lord, and he will reveal these things to you. He will reveal to you, like, is this something that I should be watching? Is this something that I should be listening to? Just pray for discernment. It's just really important, especially in today's day and age. We are in the end times. Jesus is coming back soon, but before he comes back, like, the Antichrist is going to set himself up in the temple. That's a whole end times conversation that we can talk about later. But the spirit of the Antichrist is being ushered into the world, and so we can prevent that by not paying attention to demonic things, and by not consuming things that are just demonic. But we need to make sure that we're not defining demonic by our own definition, but really being led by the Spirit in that area. Oh no, I skipped back. I don't know where we were. Okay, hold on. I'm just gonna skip forward a little bit.
Yeah.
And also too, like, I don't know. When I look at people, I just don't understand what you're going through. Like, I remember tattooing a man who like accidentally killed his only son. He got a portrait of, that was paying homage, and it's like, how are you still here? And like, I remember that day I was like pulling out of my tattoo shop, and I was leaving, and I saw him, bandaged up, and he was crossing the street to go back to his car. And I'm at the stoplight, and he's just passing people. I'm like, the people that are passing him have no idea what this man's carrying right now, and we just treat each other so poorly all the time, just like look what he's wearing, so it's like, man, you just don't know, like, even the people that hate me, I'm like, oh man, they got to be miserable in their own life. Like, I'm not gonna just be like, let me go look at your profile, because you're probably pretty easy to break down too, but I just think like, oh man, like, you must not have a fun life, like,
you just don't know.
You just don't know. So I love Merrill Manson. I think he's a good guy, and I think he's actually like making a lot of deep, meaningful changes that it's not my place to talk about that for him, but like, if you knew, you'd feel bad about criticizing, So
I think a lot of people are just very unfamiliar with the world, and I listen to your story, and I think about people that are in your circles, like the ones that you listed, who don't know Christ at all, and are looking, like we all did at one point, for that happiness and satisfaction. Like, everyone's just looking for that thing that lasts. Like, will something just keep me stable forever? And it that can't be found outside of Christ. It's so obvious to me, like, that the Lord is going to use you and your testimony for these friends that you have. That maybe the outside world does look at someone like Marilyn Manson or other people in your circle and think, wow, you know, they're my enemy, or they hate me and what I stand for, or they can't be redeemed.
That's not a Christ-like mindset, by the way. If you remember, Paul from the Bible murdered Christians, hunted them down, you know, and then God radically saved him. And every single character in the Bible actually is really messed up. All of us are, I mean, we're still messed up, but like, we were really a mess before Jesus. And like, that's the point, is like, none of us can be holy without him. Like, we need him in order to be holy. And like, when I think of Marilyn Manson, I think of how in his early career, like, he was burning Bibles on stage and like ripping pages out of the Bible, whatever. You know, then I saw him, I think it was a couple years ago at Kanye West church, and like, he looked like he was getting emotional during the service. And I don't know where he is in his faith, you know, but it's like, God loves to redeem people like that. Like, I feel like that's his favorite kind of person to redeem, is like those who came from really bad, broken places, even those who crucified Christ at one point, you know? So yeah, let's not act like we're born perfect and then God saved us. Like, he saved us because we were far from perfect.
You know personally that we're all just people. They're all just people. All looking for the same things that we're all looking for.
Yeah.
And I just think that you're in such a unique position that a lot of people are not, to help show those people like where the love is that actually lasts and satisfies.
Or just to even see it as an option. Like, cause I didn't really have anybody other than Alice Cooper, to be honest. Like, and I remember like after I posted that baptism video and I was getting all this heat, I was like, I wonder how Alice deals with this, you know? And I just Googled like Alice Cooper, like faith, YouTube, whatever.
Yeah.
And I saw some of his interviews and I was like, man, that's so cool. Like, you know, he was saying, and I'm not quoting because I'm going to butcher it, but he was saying about how, like, when he had first found Jesus, that he was like, do I have to drop this Alice Cooper thing? You know, do I have to, like, not have a career anymore, not saying, like, and he's like, but no, God sent me here as Alice Cooper to be able to, like, inspire people that would listen to somebody like him versus, like, somebody that doesn't. Like, I don't feel like I relate to a lot of people in, like, in the Christian realm that, I mean, I do relate on matters of the Bible, and that's what makes me love all my Christian family that way. But as far as like understanding where we come from and like what our normal is, like, I don't know, it's just not.
I have felt this way so strongly because for the longest time, like, I still feel this way sometimes. Like, I just feel like I don't relate a lot to my Christian brothers and sisters. And it really has to do with, like, you know, how I was raised, what I went through, just the fact that I do have an edgier style. And it's not like I want people to, like, relate to my past exactly. It's really just, like, I went through a lot when I was younger. And, like, for that reason, I feel like I'm a very compassionate person. And there's just certain attributes that growing up in a toxic family has taught me that a lot of people don't have, and it's nothing against them. It's just, it can be hard to relate to people for that reason because, like, I don't know, you kind of just have like a different view on life.
We have our friends, you know, like the people that came out to my baptism, like they're on the same page, and you wouldn't think that. That was like another thing that people criticize is like, oh, look at all these witches inside of a church, and it's like, what are you talking about? Those people have been Christian longer than I have. Like,
yeah, just because they're wearing something, they look a certain way.
Yeah,
we for sure should not be judging someone based on appearance. I feel like that's what a lot of this is judging based on appearance. And it's like, we need to focus more on what God's doing on the inside of somebody, not on the outside. And, you know, a lot of the times how we look on the outside we should be glorifying God with our bodies, but how our bodies look, how we dress our bodies does not define how close we are with Jesus either.
The other thing about like criticizing people's faith on social media, which I think like debates are fine, or disagreements are fine. If someone posts something, like some commentator posts something that's theologically untrue, I might respond to that. But just like judging a book by its cover and saying, wow, this person looks like this or is making this mistake, they must not be a Christian. I think people forget so quickly and so easily like their own sanctification journey. What you're seeing in someone's faith on social media is just a snapshot of where they are. But there was a time like when I was younger that I used to listen to the prosperity gospel and I was into that kind of stuff. I used to have a different stance on abortion. I was a lot more liberal on it. I just didn't know.
Yeah.
And there were probably people maybe in my life then when I was listening to some of those teachers and having some of those views in college who would have been like, if I'd put that publicly, oh, you're not a real Christian.
Yeah.
No, I was, but I I was still and am still, as we all are, being sanctified. So no one has perfect wisdom.
Yeah.
So someone sharing their testimony, I think it's really easy to criticize while forgetting like where we all were.
Yeah.
When we became Christians. Not saying that's you, but like all of us are being sanctified and learning and gaining wisdom.
Yeah.
And are changing for the better. And so, yeah.
And I think like the important change too is like, it's not outward, because I see a lot of that. You know, I follow like Christian accounts, and I a lot of the content that I engage with is in that world. So a lot of the, you know, how Instagram, the algorithm will show you stuff. So I get a lot of like flashes of people like, oh, look, before Christ, and it was like somebody dressed a certain way, and it's like after Christ, and they're just like modest and stuff,
and they're blonde.
Yeah. And they're blonde. And to be honest, like I've actually been pretty modest like most of my life. I know I don't, but like if you look at like my history, like you won't find naked photos of me. Like I'm just not like generally that's never been my vibe, you know? I think that the more meaningful changes like happen, at least for me, they're just groundbreaking changes that happen internally, you know? And that's what people were like, there's like one annoying comment that people put, and I know it's regarding a verse, something about like, show me the fruits or whatever, like we'll see if she's really Christian once
the tree shall be known by its fruit.
Yeah. And that, I'm like, block, delete. But if you would have known my heart and mind before and to where I am now, you would be like, your mind would be blown.
Yeah, that's so important. Like I was saying earlier, like the change is not on the outside appearance, although it can be. So that trend that she's talking about, I actually jumped on that trend on TikTok. You know, it was like, this is me before Christ, this is me after. I think mine said like lost sheep, found child of God or something like that. My photo that I posted, that was like me before, like I was dressing darker. And then the photo that I posted of me with God now, like did have a lot of color, and I was wearing color, but it wasn't really just about that for me. Like that just happened to be part of it, you know, that I went from darker colors to lighter colors. What really it was for me was like, you know, I never liked wearing light colors before. Like I only liked wearing dark colors, and like, so to see that representation was really cool, but also was more about just how I looked in my face, like my eyes, my smile, you know, like there was life in my face and my facial expression that you can visibly see. It was more about that for me, but also like going from darker clothes to lighter clothes. Like I'm still wearing, you know, I'm wearing all black right now, but I still wear darker clothes. But the thing for me about dressing darker before was that I was really provocative. Like I was not modest at all in the way that I dressed. I was very immodest because I worshipped a rock star female singer that dressed really immodestly. And so I did show how I used to dress versus now, because I was crazy with how I used to dress. That just happened to be part of it. But that doesn't mean that like when you find Jesus, like, oh, now you're going to start dressing in colors. Like some people don't like colors and only like neutrals, and like there's nothing wrong with that.
Husband Raphael, one time I was like, do you know that you leading me back to where I am now is probably the reason that we're together now? You know, like I feel like I'm the best wife and the best mother I can be now because of the changes that I've had. I mean, it's like a deprogramming that has taken place. Things that I used to find attractive are disgusting to me, you know? And it's like, I wish I could put into words like how amazing those changes are.
Yeah.
That I've been able to experience through all this. And it's so cool, you know?
Is there an example that you can think of like something that you used to like that you find disgusting?
I just think like things that I even like would find just attractive in general, like in people. Like an easy one is like my life before. Like I would have just been like this career boss babe or whatever it is that they call them. It's like I have no interest in that anymore. It's not, I mean, I love to be creative and I love to have ideas and make them come to life with my mind and my hands, but my priorities have shifted a great deal, you know? And I think how I see my husband now is just, I mean, it's just awesome, you know?
So to end, what message would you give someone who is watching this, who maybe they are in the position to where they're like, yeah, you know, I want to believe that God is real, but there are things holding me back, whether it's their past or whether it's that they don't like what they see from Christians. It's just not attractive to them. Like, what would you tell that person?
Oh man, I'm not good at these kinds of giving messages out or advice.
What would you have told yourself?
I think what's exciting to me is to look, like, I loved researching, like, the historical aspect of the Bible, because then you just start seeing actual truths. And I think a lot of people, when they think of, like, oh, it's like some guy with a beard in the clouds and, like, miracles didn't really happen, like, this kind of, but when you start looking at, like, there's so much evidence.
There's a lot of
that
evidence.
It's so undeniable. I mean, it's so cool. That's the part where I was like, okay, this isn't just about blind faith. Oh, I just believe because this is like what I was talking about with my childhood. It's like, I just believe because that's what my parents told me to do. It's like, no, there's actual like evidence and information that's like so exciting and inspiring. So like I said, gifted me the idea of getting that Bible. Like it really helped me out because I have like a little women's Bible study class that I go to on Tuesdays at my church and stuff. But we are a little bit of like, not the blind leading the blind, but we're all figuring it out together, you know? And so it's like,
I think that is the blind leading the blind.
I don't know what the advice is. You know, I got really lucky with a pastor that has like a doctorate in theology and like is very knowledgeable, and I can ask certain questions and we can talk about it, and he has like, you know, opened my mind to certain things, and I don't know how to tell people how to find that, you know? I mean, you're probably better at it than me. I just know that it's within me and that's what I want to do.
Yeah. Well, I think you answered the question just by giving your testimony of talking about how God draws people and kind of what you did to seek that out and the questions that you ask. I think it's just good for people to hear too, that it's okay to have questions.
Yeah.
And that you don't have to have it all figured out. And actually, we are all figuring it out. Whether you've been a Christian for 5 minutes or 50 years, there are going to be questions that are unanswered. But there are also, like, I see a lot of people saying, well, I can't be a Christian because this question, or whatever it is. And I think a lot of people have some arrogance in believing that no one else has ever asked the questions or had the doubts that you do.
Right.
When really, thankfully, like, we have thousands of years of very smart, very knowledgeable, very wise theologians who have wrestled with a lot of those questions. So, like, chances are there are a lot of answers to the questions that we have. Not perfect in all of them, but like you said, you asked people, you sought people who knew what they were talking about. You read the Bible, you had a study Bible. I think that is a good answer. Yeah. Like, seek the questions that you have. Don't just sit with them. Like, seek the truth about them because chances are there's a lot of wisdom out there for you.
Totally.
Yeah. Well, Kat, thank you so much for
thank
taking the time. I mean, we could talk a lot more. It's already been 1 hour and 7 minutes. That was a beautiful job sharing your testimony.
Oh, thanks.
I know it's going to encourage a lot of people, so thank you so much.
Okay, this was a much longer video than I think I intended on filming. I guess it depends how much of this footage that I have to actually leave in here. But first of all, I just want to say, Kat, if you're watching this video, which that was so unlikely, but if you are, I'm so happy to have you be part of the family of Christ, and welcome. I know you've probably been saved for a while now, but welcome to the family of believers. And I just think it's so cool to have people like you that are like a little bit different. I really relate because I'm not really that goth, but you know, I have a bit of an edgier style, and that has been criticized before online lately for some reason. And it's like, we're not saved by appearance, though our appearance can show that we are saved. There's nothing wrong with wearing black. You know, the biggest part of how we dress is modesty. We shouldn't be showing too much of our bodies in a way that gets attention. Like, what's your heart behind it? What's your heart behind how you look? What's your heart behind the things that you say? What's your heart behind your criticism? Like, are you speaking from a place of love where God is, or are you speaking out of judgment because you don't understand? We just really need to be mindful and ask God to give us a clean heart so that we can have clear discernment about these things. But I just feel really happy for her, and just like, so her testimony really inspired me. I feel like I have kind of a similar testimony as I grew up in church and then ran away and whatever. But that's it for today's video. Again, if you guys want to watch this whole Kat Von D podcast interview, I'll leave it in this description box below. Thank you guys so much for being here, for supporting me, for supporting my channel, for watching my videos. I appreciate you guys so much, and I love you, and God loves you, and I pray that you have a great rest of your week wherever you are when you watch this, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye guys.